Let's get to the game review. This week we are reviewing Clans of Caledonia, a 2017 release. The designer is Juma Al-Juju. The artist is Clemens Franz, the Clemens Franz from Agricola, etc., etc. And it is put out by Karma Games. Elder, my brother from another Scottish clan. Would you please go over the basics of what Clans of Caledonia is?
Sure. So the basics of the game is, it's typically the theme is farming. There's a good deal of area control in the game. There's resource management, which I love. I don't have the count exactly, but I think there's not quite 16 resources, but there's at least a good 7 or 8, I think. You basically get money each turn, and the money kind of determines how many actions you could take. So managing your finances is really important in the game. And I think one of the main things is, it has this mechanic like that, I think was made really famous in Terra Mystica, but I think we determined started off in games like Hansa Teutonica. Yes. Where you start off with these wooden pieces that are on your player board. And as you uncover these pieces or build these pieces out onto the main board, you get benefits in between rounds. So, for instance, if you build a sheep in an area, then you'll start producing wool from that space each time. And you have these producing spaces. So if it's cow, you'll produce milk. If it's wheat, you'll produce that wheat, and you're getting 2 wheat for those, and those are very expensive to plant those. But then there's also these things that you can build that will upgrade the basic resources. So you can build a little cheese factory that'll take your milk and turn it into cheese. You can build a whiskey distillery that'll turn your wheat into whiskey, which is a really expensive produced resource. And then you have these contracts that are looking for the more produced resources. And, it was funny in our game last night, we were, I joked at the beginning that it's a contract game. And if you focus on contracts, you'll win. And we were kind of debating that throughout the game, and it turned out Trey did win by, having the most contracts. I don't think that's always the case in the game, but
I think it might be. It might be true. we'll find out.
It might be.
It'll be. Let's save that for the end of the discussion. It's an important point to bring up.
Yeah.
So each of us plays a different Scottish clan. So we each have different variable starting powers. In other words, we have different abilities. And we also start with a slightly different resource allocation at the beginning of the game. Everyone starts with a few things here and there. One clan will be better at one thing. One clan will be better at another thing. This is definitely one of those games where when you start with a clan advantage, you best take advantage of the clan advantage. You better lean into it heavy, and do everything you can. Everyone has the exact same player board, which has got 4 rows of 4 different pieces, right? Rows of 4 pieces of the same kind. You have 4 miners that go on the mountain spots, and they will generate income. You got 4 woodworkers that go on the wooded spots, and they will generate income as well. You've got 4 sheep farms that'll go down, and they will generate you wool. You got 4 cow spots, and you put them out, and they're going to generate milk, and so on and so forth. 4 of each. As you're going out, the cost is listed on for each one. They're different. So a miner costs 10 to put out, a sheep costs 8 to put out, and so on and so forth. In addition, every space on the board, every hex on the board has its own cost, and you add that cost to the cost of the piece that you're putting out, and that's the total cost. This is a game in which you're going to start off with, $50 to $60, and you're going to take as many actions as you can until you're almost out of all of that money. Saving money between rounds, rarely a good idea. And what you want to do is you want to figure out a way to build up some income, because money is king here. Everything you do, almost everything you do, costs money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah. The way you score points in the game is much like Terra Mystica or Gaia Project. At the end of the game, there's going to be a big score for the most settlements. And settlements meaning pieces that are bunched together of your color. In addition, much like Terra Mystica or any of these games, you have a shipping range, which means the amount of water you can cross and still be connected into sort of one empire. Super important, because if I have 10 pieces and they're all touching one another, and we're not crossing rivers or we're not crossing lakes or anything like that, or locks, as we should say, then you're in a situation where you're not getting 10 pieces together in one area is worth one village, essentially, at the end of the game. Whereas if they're all across rivers or across locks, then all of a sudden those 10 can be worth 10 points, because there are 10 different things. I think it's 18 points for the person with the most separate villages or separate settlements.
Yep.
12 for second and 6 for third.
Yep.
Then there are contracts to fulfill. Contracts are things like turn in 4 bread, and you're going to get the resources listed on the right side of that contract. Turn in 2 whiskey, 2 cheese, and a beef, and you'll get those resources. Now, most of those resources, you're just resources you've collected, and you're going to trade them in. Some of those resources, like beef or like pork, or not pork, beef and mutton, I guess.
Yeah.
To get those, you have to take pieces off the board. I have to take a cow off the board to get a beef. So you're transforming your board that way. And the other thing is there is a market. There is a market out there, and everybody starts with 2 merchants that can go to that market, and each merchant can buy or sell 1 item. You can sell items for whatever the going rate is. You can buy items for whatever the going rate is. And when you do that, that rate is going to move up or down 1 space to represent that. So a lot of times, if you want to fulfill a contract, you're going to be growing some of the things that you need, but some of the others, you're going to have to go to the market and buy. So once again, money, 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 money in this game. Mm-hmm. So the Terra Mystica of it is undeniable, right? It is. When we look back at Hansa Teutonica was innovative in the sense that you have a board that has little squares on that board, and over the course of the game, you're pulling things off of the board, squares and circles off of the board, placing them on the main board, and in doing so, you're unlocking abilities. That's essentially what we're talking about here. Terra Mystica went a step further, and now the pieces that you're pulling off are not abstract anymore. They represent things. They generate income of various kinds. They kind of do more, and they mean more in terms of what they do. So it was a natural progression of that. Gaia Project took that even further, and the same year that Gaia Project came out, so did Clans of Caledonia. My copy is signed by Jumal Juju. We met him at Essen, and he was a delight, really nice guy, and what a great game. I'm really glad that you brought this out, Elder, because I mostly play Gaia Project. Never played Terra Mystica again. But I now remember, when this first came out, I played this all the time, and I didn't really play Gaia Project much.
Right.
So it's pretty fantastic. Do you feel obviously you wanted to play this game?
Yes.
You love this game.
Yeah.
What do you think what are its, compared to the others, compared to Terra Mystica, compared to Gaia Project, strengths and weaknesses?
Well, I actually have yet to play Gaia Project.
What?
Yeah. And so, I haven't played it yet. And I don't know if I will, actually. I played Terra Mystica. I remember being kind of fascinated when Terra Mystica first came out. It was hot when it first came out. I enjoyed my plays of Terra Mystica. I think, again, this is another thing that happens to me with some games, and this is definitely one. I didn't play it enough to keep up with. I mean, again, I play games with, people like you, the Game Master, and all my game groups, my favorite game groups, are highly competitive. sometimes championship level players, right? And I just fell behind the curve, and I think Terra Mystica doesn't quite work really well with my game brain. Doesn't feel good to me when I'm playing Terra Mystica. It's a little bit too tight for me, and the way the game works. And so, I kind of, again, when it comes up now as one of those games to play, I'll let other folks play it. I'm not really that interested. And whereas this game, I don't feel like, even though it is a spiritual sister or brother, I think, to Terra Mystica, I feel like it plays very, very differently. I feel like this game works a lot better with my game brain, and so I just enjoy it a lot more. I don't think it feels like Terra Mystica really at all, even though a lot of the underlying mechanics are undeniable, including the asymmetrical starts, which I don't really enjoy in the Terra Mystica space. Again, I think that's one of those things where people really kind of got the strategy on how their asymmetrical starts worked and how they worked against other players, which I think is really important. Whereas in this one, I feel like you got to know how your clan works, but I don't feel like it's as impactful how yours work in relationship to the other players on the board.
I think that's right. I think that in Terra Mystica and Gaia Project, your species breaks the rules of the game in fairly profound ways. In this, in Clans of Caledonia, it provides you an advantage, but it doesn't utterly change the way that you play the game. It gives you an advantage, but it doesn't dominate your thinking and change the game in such radical ways. I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Why did you say that you probably won't play Gaia Project? What's that?
Well, I think, again, just because I'm not really so interested in playing Terra Mystica, again, because I'm playing with sharks. I think for me to enjoy Terra Mystica, to have to play with people at my level, and again, that I don't feel like that really exists in my game groups anymore. So those same folks that, again, are very advanced, I feel like Terra Mystica players have taken to Gaia Project and now have played that a ridiculous number of times, and I haven't even played once. So I just feel like it just won't be very much fun for me playing with the people I play with.
Our game group are dilettantes. We're hopping to here and there and the other thing. We don't play any one game enough to just totally rain on your experience. We're not that way, right? We're like, oh, yeah, Gaia Project. I remember that. I think we played that 7 months ago. Come on.
How many plays of Gaia Project do you have under your belt, Tom?
How many total plays?
Yes.
10, 12, maybe?
Exactly.
No, but that's it. That's like, and by the way, in my top 10 games of all time.
I got it.
And I've only played
a lot of plays, though.
And I've only played it 10 times. I haven't played it in 6 months. I'm. What do I have to do to get you into Gaia Project today? Okay, this is not even a review of Gaia Project, but you have to do it.
I'd be willing to play it once.
Now, okay, so here's the thing about Terra Mystica and why what you're saying is more true for Terra Mystica than it is for other things. Terra Mystica has a fixed board, and that's a mistake. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Because once you played that game 6 times, you know that if I'm playing the halflings, then here are my start positions. I'm going to start here or here or here. That's it, right?
Yep.
And your first time playing, there's 20 places, and I have no idea which is which. But because the board is fixed, because it's the same every time, things get very scripted very quickly in terms of what's ideal, right? To the point of, we found out that on that original map in Terra Mystica, there are better races than others. If you are playing a black color, your placements on the map are better than other people's. If you're playing yellow, your situation is worse. And because of that, that really affects things. Whereas this, Clans of Caledonia, has a modular board. It's got 4 pieces, and it is, it arranges in a variety of ways, and so no 2 games are the same. The board never looks exactly the same. So you always have to do sort of a fresh analysis of, okay, I'm playing this clan, which I haven't played in a while. I'm playing this board, which I've never quite seen this particular configuration. Where should I start? What should I do? That keeps people who have played this game tons of times from immediately going, okay, well, clearly I'm going to do opening A3. It's not that. Gaia
and the ports as well.
Yes, very much so.
Yep.
Yeah, there are 4 ports in the 4 corners of the map that are sort of free actions if you can reach them, that unlock little extra one-time abilities, powers, benefits, and they're quite good. They're quite good, and your game should be, to some degree, focused around which 2 ports minimum am I going to try and get to in this game, and what am I going to do with the benefit of that port when I get to it.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you, Gaia Project has got 9, 10, 12 interlocking pieces that form the map. So radically different every single time. Not only that, but the victory conditions, the end-game victory conditions, there are 6 or 8 of them, radically different every time. The technology tracks that are in that game, which are sort of like the temple tracks in Terra Mystica, radically different every time. The game looks radically different every single time, and because of that, the ability for a person that has played it many times, they're going to be better at analyzing the new layout and seeing what they think is going to pay off well, but they're not going to have this automatic advantage that you have in games with fixed maps and things like that. So anyway, enough about that. I think you're absolutely right that Clans has sort of minimized the variable player power abilities in a way that Terra Mystica and Gaia Project really lean into. They are much more about coming up with powers that play very, very differently and sort of almost have their own game and their own style. Clans of Caledonia, everybody plays the same game. You just have this one special thing that you can do, and you have this one special thing that you can do. So there's a simplicity and an elegance to that I like sometimes. However, me, personally, if there is a variable player power that kind of breaks the game and yet you can balance them, I think that's amazing. I mean, I think of Marco Polo. All of those guys are crazy, and yet, for the most part, you could win with almost any of them. I think Mercator is a little broken, but other than that, I think they're all, they all got a shot at it, and I think it's very, very interesting. If you can pull it off, I think it's pretty great.
Yeah, I agree.
My second thing is that, can you win without contracts? Can you? I don't think so. I don't think so, because the other thing that we didn't mention about the contracts is there's another mechanism in the game where each contract, once you fulfill it, gives you a certain number of these other resources. So here's upping the resource count to maybe now we're up to 15 or 16 now. It's like tobacco, cotton, and sugarcane that you get on the contract. And depending on the contracts that the other players and you fulfill, those each have their own, you track those each on the board.
Yeah. And so the ones that, like, let's say the tobacco, right? If everybody fulfills contracts that get them tobacco, then the tobacco is actually going to be worth less points. I think there's 3, 4, and 5 points for each one of those elements.
Thinking about them as resources is probably misleading, because they're not really resources. They're not things you can do anything with. What it is when you complete a contract, you are going to get A or B or C or D, which is hops. Hops is a 4th victory point thing that you get, and whatever hops you get, that's just plain victory points. That's all you get, just victory points. Tobacco leaves. Let's suppose I have a contract and it's going to give me 2 tobacco leaves and 2 cotton. I'm going to go up 2 spaces on the. I'm going to go up to 2 cotton and up to 2, or say 3 tobacco leaves.
Yeah.
If I'm the first person to do that, what I have done now is I said sugarcane stays at 0.
Yep.
Cotton is at 2, and tobacco is at 3. The rules of the game state that at the end of the game, whichever one of those resources is the highest, each one of those resources is worth 3 points at the end of the game. Whichever one is in the middle is worth 4 points at the end of the game, and whichever resource there is the least of in the game, that's worth 5 points. Yeah. So currently, with 3 tobacco, those are worth 3 points each, so that's 9 points worth. The cotton, I have 2 of, they're worth 4 points each, so that's worth 8 points. But it is a constantly shifting thing. If a lot more cotton comes out, suddenly that cotton that I had, which I thought was worth 4, is now only worth 3. Or let's suppose the others jump up above it. All of a sudden, that could be worth 5. So it is kind of a dynamic market of victory points, which changes the relative value of each contract based on that. Which is it's a very interesting thing. It's something you need to keep an eye on and to keep track of, but it's not a resource in the traditional sense, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's very hard to manage, but it is something to keep your eye on, during the game.
All right. Which is
in your selection of what contracts, and also the contracts at first you get paid to take a contract in the first round, but later in the game you actually have to pay to take contracts, which really eats into your income.
Yes, I think the first round you get it's $5. Yeah. Yep. Second round, you get contracts for free. Third round, you have to pay 5, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
For me, this is a little bit of a problem. This is listen. I love Clans of Caledonia. I think I rated it a 9 on Board Game Geek. I think it's an amazing game. It's in comparison to Gaia Project, though. I'm going to dock it a point because there is one dominant strategy that pretty much everybody has to adhere to. And the other strategies of the game that the game kind of pushes you toward.
Yeah.
Right? Those end game scoring opportunities are dwarfed by the contract points.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. I wish it was more balanced. I mean, I could right now just say if you made those 3 goods that are worth points of contracts worth 2, 3, and 4 instead of 3, 4, and 5, that alone might adjust things, might make things a little bit more balanced. But as it stands, the game kind of pushes you to, say what you want about Gaia Project and Terra Mystica, there's a lot of ways to get points in that game. And if somebody is going heavy in strategy A, you've got strategy B, C, and D that you could potentially dominate to catch up and surpass them, right?
Yep.
And this game doesn't quite have that. The strategic variety isn't quite as balanced as I would like it to be.
Yeah, I would agree with that because, again, it is most likely whoever gets the most contracts or fulfills the most contracts is going to win the game.
Yeah.
No matter what the other players do, and you can't. It's very hard to control and manage, and those. I don't think you're going to win on the individual round bonuses. No. Like that can't make the difference. And maybe that would be another way to balance the game, is if those were maybe worth more. Maybe, I'm not sure. But I agree. It's like it's kind of deterministic, and it really a tight game, I think, is going to require that each player kind of ties on contracts. If somebody, again, in a case like last night where Trey fulfilled like 5 or 6.
He came in first on contracts. I came in second on contracts, and we came in first and second in terms of points as well. Yeah. It's just the way it is. Even though I came in first in terms of the board presence at the end of the game, I think I came in first in terms of round bonus points scored. So, but it was not nearly enough to make up for having 2 or 3 less contracts than he did. It was it's a minor detriment. The fact of the matter is Clans of Caledonia is a trading and resource management game. It is a game in which there is a market where you can buy and sell resources to get what you need to fulfill these contracts. So the game it's not hiding the fact that that's what the game is. It's not lying to you. It's not saying, oh, it's about all these different things. No, this is the game. I just feel that the game has all of these other elements and has all of these other design features, and I wish they were more balanced so that there was more that you could do instead of everybody chasing the same thing.
Yeah.
A little bit. But as I said, I rate this game a 9 out of 10. This game is crazy good and astonishing. Last thoughts. What do you want to say about it?
Yeah, I think it's I just want to echo. It's just I think it's a really solid, tight game. I really like the way all of the elements work together. Mm-hmm. I like playing around with the different variable powers. I tend to like the if I can choose them, the same guy I had last night, which was the hops guy. Yep. Which turns you can turn hops into beer for a lot of money. It's another way to get a pretty dramatic amount of money, which you really need to drive the game. And I think it's just fun playing around with that, and the opportunity is very interactive as far as the board is concerned, because you can cut people off, and another kind of tricky element of the game, which we didn't do a whole lot last night, but I think can really, kind of turn your fortunes in the game if you can take advantage of it, is when you build next to somebody, you get a discount. You kind of get a free purchase action, and you can buy that particular type. Like if I build next to somebody that has a cow, I can buy some milk at a discount. And I think if you can take advantage of that to help fulfill contracts or even to manipulate the market, I think that can really help you out in the game as well. So I think there's a lot to explore in the game space. And I think for that one minor element that we both agree on, that you kind of have to focus on contracts to a certain degree, I think it's just super solid and super fun, and doesn't take for, I think, how heavy it is, doesn't take an extremely long time to play as well. I think it's a good length of time game.
Yeah, we didn't mention that, but I think that's absolutely true. I think it plays half hour to an hour less than the other games that we're comparing it to, Terra Mystica and in particular Gaia Project, which can get a little bogged down. And then just for me personally, when I play Gaia Project, even though I absolutely adore it, I can't really adopt a thick Scottish burr, which always turns into an Irish brogue, but that being what it is, my ability to to be a Highlander for a couple hours, I will say that locked into to my house in Los Angeles, it's a wonderful thing to escape to the Highlands.
Yeah,
and it's a wonderful thing to play with you, Elder. I really enjoyed that game. You and Jennifer and Trey, just so fun to get the gang back together and play that game.
Yeah. Super fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Clans of Caledonia 2017. What can we say? It's a fantastic game. It is not in my top 10, but it's probably in my top 20, definitely in my top 30. It's an astonishing game, and if you've never played it, find a time to check it out, and check it out on BoardGameArena.com. Get your friends together and try and get a server, and watch a video, learn the game, and then go play it there, because the implementation is fantastic.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.